Now I've got him. Oh, great stuff. That's what we're after. Right, well in this video we're going to be talking about whiting on the flats, how to get them with surface poppers and little walking lures and that sort of thing. But before we get into it, I just want to show you a couple of ridiculous catches I've been involved with over the last couple of weeks chasing big flathead. Take a look at this. Mate, have a look at this. Chasing whiting on popper. No, I'm not. But that is a massive whiting on one of Kai's big walking lures. That is a huge whiting. It's almost worth taking home. Johnny,
Hey,
look at the size of that, man.
these tiny little bloody...
Mate, big swinging treble. Look at the size of it. It's a huge swinging treble. Big walking lure. Homemade. Stinks of nail polish, but God, they must work. Alright. Wasn't what we're after. That's what I'm trying to imitate with this surface bait. Look at that, man. Yeah, he's literally got it down. Yeah, he's gone after it. He's busted it on the surface, eh? It's a beautiful big whiting.
But the lure's half as big as it.
Yeah. And look at the size of that, man. Whiting's over 30. Yeah, just over 30. The lure is 18.
Wow.
No, I can't be bothered keeping it, eh? Let it go. Take it on the giant matchstick. Look at that. What a beauty. Yeah, so if you're wondering how to catch whiting on surface lures, 18 centimetre surface walker with a monster swinging treble.
Good fish,
Yep.
hasn't it?
Nice,
Really made any distance on him just yet. Oh, pulled out.
Oh no!
Oh.
Oh,
right there.
give us a little lure. Oh mate,
It's all chomped up.
gutted.
Damn it. Oh well.
Well, we want to keep going for a little bit, or?
Yeah, we'll have another couple of tries.
Sweet. Oh my god, again. What's going on with these whiting on massive?
Look at
massive
the, he's
surface
bigger
lures?
than, he's smaller than the lure. Oh, I think we're just jagging that one.
They're coming up for a buck.
Yeah, come on for a look. Look at that.
Same
Can't
size.
get a better match than that, can you?
Done.
That's bait.
Oh.
Oh well, rip noodles out of him.
What is that? Give me a look. What is that? Oh, it's another whiting, man. It's another whiting. What are they doing? These whiting are loving their giant crossfire at night. God. Oh, look at that. Off you go. Don't have a look at it. I'll keep going. Yes, there it is. You little beauty. And this sugar pen, they've got to be one of the most well-regarded topwater whiting lures. It's done the damage. In this video, I'm going to take you through my tactics for chasing whiting with little surface lures, and all of the little techniques and tips that I got for you I'm going to share with you, so that next time you go out chasing whiting, you've got something to think about, so that you can have a lot of fun. Boy, they're good fun. Love them on light gear. Here you go, buddy. I might even try, what else have I got? I might try this little popper. That might be a little bit more of the go. Just enough to stir them up a little bit more before this tidal run really hits. Right, I'm just adjusting my Minn Kota because you can see behind me just how shallow it is. I'm like literally fishing in like 3-4 inches of water. It's just been covered, so the whiting are trying to get up on there to feed. And it makes it super visual because you can just see you can see absolutely everything. You can see them coming from a mile away. I reckon they're a little bit more aggressive when there's less water to fish in. And I've got like, there's 4 or 5 of them coming at me now. It's just so much fun to watch them hone in on your lure. So that's how I like to fish. Keep that Minn Kota nice and quiet and steady, and ideally you kind of want to be throwing with the wind at your back so you can get more distance, because it gives them more time to sort of team up, hone in on it, and then sort of compete for it. Because often they'll sort of be a little bit half-hearted, or they'll just follow. It's when it gets competitive, that's when you start to get your hookups, when you got like 5, 6, 10 whiting all sort of vying for that little feed. So I'm fishing a filling tide. It's about halfway up now, and the water's just covered this bank. So all of the yabby pumping and all of that from everyone, all the boat action, everything's sort of stirring it up, and the whiting are coming in around that. I love it. Kind of throwing crosswind as well, which isn't ideal. If you can keep in contact with your lure, like a straight line of your line to your lure, helps with your hookup a little bit. And what I'm fishing is super light gear. Like I've literally just snapped myself off because it's so light. I'm gonna have to get out, go for a walk. Don't want to lose my sugar pen. About to say I'm fishing super light gear, and I literally just copped a guide wrap and snapped myself off. Had to go looking for my sugar pen in the shallows, which is over on that stuff where it's all turned up. Almost impossible, eh? But yeah, I'm like 4 pound braid, 4 pound fluorocarbon leader, which a lot of people might fish with mono, like a casting or a clearer mono as their leader, mainly because these tiny little lures, when you're fishing them, a lot of them are so temperamental that you need floating line at the front. But I tend to fish with fluorocarbon just because I fish a high rod tip as I'm bringing it in, and I'll get into that once I get rigged up again, and I can show you what I mean. I'm just fishing an FG knot out of habit, like as a join, but I'm certain that at this light gauge there's probably a better join to go with. If you chase these whiting and know the better super light gauge join, and it's not an FG, or even if it is, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I'm just doing it because it's basically the join I use for everything these days. But because it's such light line, there might be a little bit better way to go. Right, now because these lures are so small, when you're running assist hooks, you just got to be careful that they're not catching up. Like these little teasers at the back, they can look like they're sort of hanging right, but the little assist can actually be hooked up there on the treble. So just keep that in mind every time you're casting. Just check it as you're whipping it through the air that it's running right. That way you're not going to be missing hookups when you do get them. So, like I was saying earlier, I run like a fluorocarbon leader, and it doesn't really tend to make a difference because you're constantly winding and you've got tension on the lure itself anyway. So the line is almost out of the water. Oh, there's some big gari coming up. So, you know, the mono does float, but I don't think it makes too much of a difference. The fluorocarbon's slightly heavier, and so that might give you a little bit better casting distance, but really what you want is like what I've got here. It's a 7 foot, it's like a 2 to 4 kilo. You can go 1 to 3 kilo, no problem at all, on a little 1,000 or 2,000 size spinning outfit. And you only need like 4, max 6 pound braid. Anything higher and you're really just sort of cutting down on your casting distance, which your casting distance, what you're able to do even when there's a little bit of wind, that's what it really comes down to, being able to get out onto the flats where they haven't seen you, where you're not sort of spooking whiting, they're all feeding freely and super keen on anything that comes their way. You know, it's really hard to capture this with the GoPro because of the just the aspect on the GoPro, anything more than like a couple of meters away from the lenses, it just really distorts it out. You can't really see anything. But what you're looking for, if I can describe it for you, is just there's little bow waves that will show up, or not even a bow wave, it just looks like there's a ripple following a meter or two behind your lure even, and it'll close in on your lure. And then if you've got polarized sunnies, like really good ones, you'll be able to see the little black shadows coming. And you don't want to stop it at that. Like, you just want to keep your retrieve going. Lots of little tick-ticks. Oh, I'm on again. Oh, dropped him. Lots of little tick-ticks of your rod. And you'll work it out. It's very visual, so you can see the way that they're feeding, and you'll notice that they often, if you slow down or change your retrieve because they've turned up, they'll just turn off and switch off and turn around and head back to their hole. Or back onto their flat. You really have to sort of keep it going in a uniform retrieve like I'm doing, which is sort of a steady medium burn with a little wriggle jiggle at the tip of the rod. You're just going ting 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 ting, and that's how you're wanting to get your lure working. Just sort of skips it side to side and gives a little bit of a disturbance. If you're using a popper, you'd probably do that less. Like if you're running like a little what have they got, like Gamoku poppers or little Rebel poppers and things like that, you don't really need to run a rod tip action as much. You're trying to make it as subtle as you can with that popping action as it's coming in, and that's probably, you know, more effective than really working your popper and stalling it. They love a constant retrieve where it's getting away from them and they can chase it down. The conditions that are ideal, like early morning, I reckon is better. There's a lot of bait that sits up on here overnight, and when the light starts to come out, there's a lot of bait movement that comes off the flats and tries to hide or goes into little holes and yabby holes and things like that. And you've got that at your disposal first thing early morning when the sun's high. It's really visual, but you're sort of missing a lot of that early bait action. You can still do it all day long, and depending on which flats, how productive the flats are, you can fish all day long with surface lures for whiting, no problem at all. But early morning with a rising tide would be my favourite way to go, especially if you can see like little skipping shrimp or disturbance, a little bit of wind action early, tidal flow. That's what you're after. So if you haven't seen, I did an earlier review of about 6 or 8 lures as options. If you don't know what sort of lures to choose for whiting, make sure you check that out, my favourite whiting lures. And if you're after a little bit more action, like actually watching it when it's going off, the Kayaker's Guide to the Gold Coast, I'll go through a few techniques and tips through that, but it's also got lots of catching action where it's just one after the other. Getting onto these whiting and showing you. It actually picks it up pretty well in that video because I'm in a kayak, I'm lower and closer to the water, so the whiting are coming right up beside me and then smashing it on the way in. So you can see it a lot better in the Kayaker's Guide to the Gold Coast, which is one of the full-length DVDs I've released. That's the little setup that I've got there. It's just like a little loop knot to my little sugar pen. You could probably even change that bigger treble out if you wanted to and go with like Decoy or Gamakatsu do really good ones, Atomic, Owner. I run a lot of Owner trebles. They're the tiny little size 10 and 12s that you want to be running to catch the little faces of these whiting. And it's not just limited to, I'm in the boat, it's 1/2 foot deep, 3 or 4 inches deep. You can definitely just step out of your boat and go for a walk, especially if you've got a lanyard, you just bring the boat back. But just walking the flats when it's like this can be even more effective, because you don't have that big shadowed presence. So it's getting super busy on this flat, like everyone wants to come here because it's full of yabby holes here. So it's I'm sort of limited as to where I can fish at the moment. Just pull the motor up and try and kick out and get on might even get on the other side of it and just go for another 5 minutes. See if we can get another rig. Right, well hopefully those tips help point you in the right direction so you can get started chasing whiting on the flats. It's a lot of fun, very visual fishing. And what you're looking for, those little flashes on the shallows, they're the whiting that are down there. So when you're coming across shallows like that and flats like that, get a little surface lure on, throw it out there and bring it back, and you might get yourself a feed of whiting, or even just catch and release fishing, chasing these whiting. It's a whole lot of fun. Alright, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this video, if you want to see more or what you'd like to see some more of, and I'll see you in the next one.